Hi Myra. Well, this is a real acid test of headphone mics. It's really strong wind. And what was I going to talk about? Oh, nearly all that stuff today was just too much. I thought my head was going to explode, so I left, came here. I'm sure I was going to say something more than just about haggises. I was going to talk about psychology. Yeah, I just made up. Will Self, I think, is a name. Maybe it's a pen name of. I think he's a Guardian columnist. Maybe he's a writer, English writer as well. I got him mixed up with Will Hall, but maybe the joke still works. But it is really interesting the way I mix up language, and it's the way. And Saya Hiyama did the same thing. So she was talking to Yui-san, and then when she introduced herself, she said, "Good morning," because she was thinking about the morning weather, because she'd been talking to the morning weather reporter. That sounds like a kind of healthy kind of ego, so it makes you make mistakes, but it's like I'm listening to John Searle lecturing, and then listening to myself talking about John Searle lecturing, and then me saying that you can't talk to him when he walks away from the microphone. I mean, when I mean to say you can't hear him when he walks away from the microphone. That lecture is so good. It'd be interesting to talk to John Searle about what he thinks about Schopenhauer. I never actually managed to read much Schopenhauer. I found it absolutely impenetrable. But I'm sure I'd make more headway with it now. I can't even keep the phone camera straight because of the wind. Wow. You probably can't hear it from the mic, but all the spars in that in those masts are whistling in the wind, and the wind whistling through the fence. And on one of the masts, I think the ladder must be loose, because the ladder's going clink, 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 clink. The sound reminded me of yachts. When you go to a yacht harbour in England in the wind, I guess anywhere, you hear these aluminium masts and the steel cables clack against the mast in the wind. It was making exactly that noise, but there aren't any cables at that mast. It must be the ladder or something. Strong wind. Santa Ana. I'm sorry, climbing up the hill made me stupid. Oh yeah, I was going to talk about Then I got a phone call from Geraldo on the way up. And I'm listening to this phone call, and the more I hear of his story, the more I think, hang on, is he actually trying to tell me something about my problem, or what? Because he comes out with more details, and I don't know. He got a referral now to the San Diego Bar Association. So that lawyer, they don't want to take his case either. But I don't feel like calling the San Diego Bar Association and asking them to send a lawyer to talk to me, because I don't know who I've got a case against. I don't know anything. Maybe I'm just in a movie. I've got no information. It's crazy. Fucking crazy. Abstract representation. What happens if you kind of take it to an extreme? What if everybody's doing this? It's kind of some kind of extreme empathy or something. And you end up actually being able to communicate, maybe. It's strange. See what you can make of that, Myra West. Did I tell you I was sure that R.D. Laing had used some sort of calculus to write, especially that chapter Us and Them. It's so complicated. Sure, he'd use some kind of calculus of representation, or maybe just lambda calculus to produce that analysis. I think it is, you could call it an analysis of concrete situations, producing an abstraction. And his abstraction should be able to sort of synthesize any, if you could formalize it, and it ought to be fairly easy, you could kind of synthesize a lot of concrete situations. That's sort of the feeling I get about how Euclidean geometry works. Euclid's elements are a sort of the result of an analysis, and they can synthesize all of the concrete situations of which they are the abstraction. So that's how analysis and synthesis work together. And then if you look at Derrida said, why is there every deconstruction is another construction, and there's a kind of duality in it, and why is it that only one aspect of the duality seems to prevail? But if you go to a modern course on semantics, operational semantics, the kind that Peter Sewell used to teach at Cambridge Computer Laboratory, he used to teach this course to second years in 2008. It's a very long, you won't get that sense you won't get any sense that things like that are possible. It's an entirely concrete and really boring course. But if you put that stuff into a logical framework, like Cousteau and Cousteau talk about, you can produce these abstract calculi and try them out. And if you look at a computer semantics sort of playground called PLT Redex in a package called Racket that was developed by some students, grad students and postdocs, something to do with, I can't remember, PLT was Rice University. Is that in Texas? They've got a tool there which allows you to build these abstract calculi and instantiate things, and you can produce, the output can be anything, can be music or computer graphics or three-dimensional computer objects or all sorts of things like that. It's all there, and I meant to sort of play with it, but so far as I know, you can't run that package on a Samsung phone, so I haven't tried. But that stuff's fun to play with, as long as you don't get bogged down in the technical details, and maybe if you've got someone showing you how you can do this stuff. It isn't as complex and technical as it sounds. I'm sure anyone could do it, and it'd be a great thing for studying RD layings. You don't have to be able to synthesize the entire, you don't have to be able to formalize the entire chapter of his book, but you just need to get enough of an idea to know that it's there. Like the people who look at Bach's work, they're not trying to generate everything. They're just showing that this was definitely the idea in Bach's mind, was that you were generating and in some sense enumerating possible combinations in a kind of formal framework, and it's a beautiful thing to do. And there's probably enough. I don't know what I did in 2014. I got kind of obsessed with the way that the details weren't working like I thought they should, and I spent all my time trying to build a kind of basis from which to start from the ground up, when in fact a lot of the stuff was actually working in a useful state, but I didn't want to take the time out to learn all the details, because to really use PLT Redex and stuff like that, you really do have to know quite a lot of scheme and quite a lot of syntax of a pretty obscure programming language, and you can kind of get bogged down in that. And I just wanted it to be understandable as pure formal language from the start. But I guess whatever you start with, you've got to have some notation, But I don't know, I thought corner quotes and semantic brackets didn't sound that difficult to me to explain to people. I don't know if any of this is making any sense. I could make sense if I could just show you some stuff on paper. I'm sure I could. You don't need to know computer science or discrete mathematics or anything like that to understand this. It's kind of natural. I think. And I'd like to have people to talk to so that I could try out my ability to explain this stuff to people. One day, I'm going to stop now and drink Pepsi and smoke a cigarette. And if I think of something else, I'll make another video. I hope some of this is audible. I don't know what this mic is doing. I hope some of this is audible, at least just this bit. Bye bye. Thank you, Myra.